just you and me, guys. No JB. It's going to be a lonely show unless he can figure out his tech issues. He is coming remotely in a little bit here. But what would his season be without technical difficulties, or a show for that matter? We'll have him on very soon. In fact, because of the way everything worked this week, we're going to have Crunch Time read live. I'm going to do it live, folks. You want to see me screw up badly and flub things up? You want to see what we cut every week? It's going to be in this show. Guaranteed. This will not go smoothly. But we're going to get you a Crunch Time while JB figures out things. We got some great guests coming up today. And so stay tuned here. It's live and it's going to go off the absolute rails on this one. I've got to think this. We are here in the huddle. And get ready, folks. Fasten that seatbelt. JB says he's on. He's not on. I'm on. And I can't give you a 30,000-foot view. That wouldn't be right. That's JB's job. So we will be talking here again about Week 12 action, which is the first round of the playoffs. We'll give you a second round preview live, Crunch Time, interviews with Luke Lehnen and Zac Boyes. There's a common link there. We'll talk a little bit about it later. Not just quarterbacks in the second round of the playoffs coming up here, but more or less, let's think about the youth and success with that youth that we've seen over these for Luke Lehnen especially, last couple of years before this year, Zac Boyes last year coming into this year. So it's going to be an interesting discussion and an interesting show, to say the least. We're going to do it live. I will tell you right off the bat, as I have to clear my throat here to even do this, excuse me for doing that, folks, that we don't have many video clips from the upper left-hand bracket because 3 of the schools decided to purge their video early. We did have some success getting video from other schools when we caught the fact. So you're going to see basically clips from the bottom left, upper right, lower right brackets, and then just one game from the upper left. But you'll see what we mean coming up right now. Folks, here we go. I'm a little bit mortified at the fact I'm doing this, but we're going to go. This is Crunch Time for week number 12 of the 2023 Division III college football season. We're going to start out with scores. Minnesota Morris went in to UW La Crosse with not much success. 62-7 final score there. Kaiser Helterbrand, 13 for 14, 175 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. Gregory Omen from Minnesota Morris, 14 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a gallant attempt on defense there for Minnesota Morris, but UW La Crosse advances 62-7 and moves to 10-1. And then Aurora will come in to face them as they beat Co 20-7. Tyler Adkins, 332 passing yards, or total yards, passing touchdown, 2 interceptions. Jack Shaw, the 100-yard interception return for touchdown you may have seen on our show on Saturday. Aurora advances 20-7. So that's it for scores for a second here. Let's go to the game highlights here. Trinity hosted Hardin-Simmons. First quarter, 6:52 left. Ryan Merrifield, a 15-yard touchdown pass from Tucker Horn, made it 7-0 early on in this game. We'll advance just about a full quarter later, and it's Ryan Merrifield, a 19-yard touchdown pass from Tucker Horn. Great catch there by him. 14-0, Trinity led the game. We're going to go to a point at the end of the first half. Trinity looked to add on to that 14-0 lead at this point coming up here. And with 9 seconds left, Tucker Horn is able to pass it complete to Caleb Crawford, but they say he was not in the end zone and the time expired in the half. So 14-0 on that missed opportunity at the end of the half. But still, fourth quarter, we're going to advance to here. 9:36 left. Tyler Huddle, a 34-yard field goal is true. 17-0 at that point. Then the defense of this Trinity team, they really took over at various points of this game. Here is Galen Glynn getting sacked for a loss, and the fumble occurs as well. That's recovered by Mir Mustafa, and that gives Trinity the ball. 7:29 left, fourth quarter. You're going to see coming up here in a moment after you see the celebration. And actually, you should pay attention as the gut is being bounced there just a little bit. We have Tyler Huddle with a 43-yard field goal. 7:29 left in the fourth quarter. 20-0. Trinity leading. Colton Marshall with a 4th and 2 coming up in a second here. This was Hardin Simmons' last real chance in the game to try to come back and do something. And 4th and 2 on the direct snap is no good there. And the final score ends up being Trinity 20-6 as Tucker Horn threw for 23 for 29, 300 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. The Trinity defense held Hardin Simmons to -3 rushing yards. In a moment, we're going to go back to just the scoreboard here, and we'll tell you a little bit more about Belhaven and North Central, which was a one-sided affair. 65-0, North Central won the game. It was Luke Lehnen with 221 total yards, 3 passing, 1 rushing touchdown, and the North Central offense outgained Belhaven 575 to 125 yards. That was about 4.5 to 1 in total yardage in that game. We're going to go back to video here for the rest of the 12 games that we've got. And it's going to start up here with Illinois College at Wartburg in the lower left bracket. And that'll be coming up in just a moment here. Remember that we are naming them by brackets by team name in each one. This is the Wartburg bracket. And here we go as Turbo for Wartburg. Hunter Clausen gets a 53-yard touchdown run with 9:53 left first quarter to make it 7-0 in favor of Wartburg. That's going to be buffeted by a Carter Henry 19-yard touchdown pass from Niall McLaughlin with 2:47 left first quarter to make it 14-0 Wartburg. Illinois College would try to come back. 1:28 left first quarter. Colin Brunstein, a 60-yard pass from Destin Chance, made it 14-7. But eventually, Wartburg would take control. Niall McLaughlin with a 1-yard touchdown run. 12:15 left second quarter made it 21-7. And the defense would also be heard from in this game by Wartburg. About 40 seconds later, you're going to see Nate Link with this fumble recovery. Ultimately, the catch, there's the fumble, and the recovery. The scoop and score is good to make it 28-7 Wartburg. Then 10 seconds left in the first half. It's Carter Henry again. A 17-yard touchdown pass from Niall McLaughlin made it 42-7, and that would pretty much, well, it wouldn't do it. It would be 49-14 final, I should say. Colin Brunstein, 15 catches, 147 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Now McLaughlin for Wartburg, 21 for 34, 252 yards, 3 passing, and 1 rushing touchdown. Then Chapman facing Whitworth. It was 6:21 left first quarter when Chapman's Gio Ursino gets a 5-yard touchdown run to tie the game, 7-7. Then Whitworth comes back with the score. 11:05 left in the second quarter. It was Solomon Hines, a 3-yard touchdown run, 14-7. Whitworth led. Chapman wasn't done though in the first half. 1:04 left coming up here in that second quarter, and it's Luke Peterman getting this 12-yard touchdown run. What a scamper by him here to tie up the game, 14 apiece. They say he just clipped it in there, and he got it for that 14-14 tie. But just before halftime, you're going to see Whitworth Solomon Hines again with a 1-yard touchdown run to make it 21-14 in favor of Whitworth. Then we'll go to the fourth quarter, 46 seconds into it. Solomon Hines gets a 66-yard touchdown pass, mostly on the run, from Austin Ewing. And that would give Whitworth ultimately the 42-28 win. Luke Peterman, a 19 for 27 day, 236 yards, 2 passing, 1 rushing touchdowns. Austin Ewing, 28 for 36 for Whitworth, 414 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Catching back up here, it's Mount St. Joseph at Wheaton. A minute and a half into the game, Mariano McKenzie, a 62-yard touchdown run for Mount St. Joseph, makes it 7-0 in favor of them. Then watch this coming up, the ensuing kickoff. This was, just a disastrous start for Wheaton in this game, as it's going to be eventually fumbled by Riley Howard, forced by Ari Turner, recovered by Marcel Tucker of Mount St. Joseph. They would go up 14-0 eventually after this turnover, but then Wheaton would come back in this game. As you'll see, they sort out the mess here on this fumble that led to 14-0 and give it to Mount St. Joseph. So for 7:04 left, first quarter, Giovanni Weeks gets the first of his many touchdowns in this game. Ends up being a 23-yard touchdown rush for him. 14-7 would be the score. Nice leap there, Giovanni, as he found out he was a semifinalist for the Gallardi Trophy earlier this week. Then, speaking of Weeks, here's Giovanni Weeks again. Second quarter, 13:34 left. It's a 20-yard touchdown run by Giovanni Weeks to make it 14-14. Mount St. Joseph, though, was game still in this game. Second quarter coming up, 11:27 left in that second quarter. And you're going to see Josh Taylor coming up here with a really effective 46-yard touchdown run going to his left side and seeing nothing but daylight with that speed. My goodness. We'll definitely be looking at that one a couple times probably later on in this show. But that made it 21-14 Mount St. Joseph at that point. Wheaton, though, would respond 2 minutes later, 5 plays later, Giovanni Weeks. This time, look at him go. A 48-yard touchdown run. His third touchdown of the game. The third touchdown for Wheaton made it 21 apiece. Wheaton and Mount St. Joseph tied. At the end of this first half, though, 5 seconds left, Ben Bonga would give Wheaton its first lead of the game, as he gets a 6-yard touchdown pass from Ben Thorson to make it 28-21 Wheaton. Eventually, it would be 31-28 Wheaton late in the third quarter, when Mount St. Joseph would continue to try their attempt at winning this game here. Josh Taylor, a 2-yard touchdown run coming up on this play. That made the score 34-31 Mount St. Joseph. So they were far from done in this game, Mount St. Joseph was. We're going to go to the fourth quarter. A minute and a half into the fourth quarter, Mateo Jesk gets a 33-yard field goal to tie things up. This game was basically going in either direction, and as the train goes by, 34-34, I'll tell you 5.5 minutes later, a fourth touchdown by Giovanni Weeks. This from 8 yards out made it 41-34 in favor of Wheaton. One of the best games in the 1 o'clock Eastern slot that we had, for sure. And then you're going to see the defense here. As Mount St. Joseph looked ready to tie this game, you're going to see a big play by the Wheaton defense as Josh Taylor tries to throw the ball, but it is broken up by Jaden Ferlita and intercepted by Gage Autry. Nice catch there, Gage, and that would pretty much do it in this game as Wheaton wins 41-34. Josh Taylor, 290 total yards, 1 passing, 2 rushing touchdowns. Giovanni Weeks, 38 rushes, 256 yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns. My goodness. We will continue as Bethel visited Whitewater. First quarter, 3 minutes into the game, Stephen Hine, a 49-yard touchdown pass from Alec Ogden, made it 7-0 in favor of Whitewater. Get used to that team leading this game, as it was pretty much a one-sided affair. 3:44 left first quarter. Nick Wind, a 32-yard touchdown pass from Alec Ogden, who was on the run there. You saw him rolling way left, but getting the pass off for a 14-0 lead. Bethel would try to come back here. Second quarter, 3:55 left. They were down 21-0 at this point, but Joey Kidder eventually gets a 4-yard touchdown run to make it a 21-7 game. About 2 minutes later, you'll see pretty much all you need to see for the rest of this game, as it will be Tommy Coates coming into your picture from 54 yards out from Alec Ogden. And watch this just convoy of Whitewater offensive players break him free for a 28-7 lead Whitewater wins this game 42-14. Joey Kidder, 17 rushes, 68 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Alec Ogden, 289 total yards, 4 passing touchdowns on the day. We'll go to the upper right bracket now as Alfred State faced Mount Union in what played out to be an interesting game. 3.5 minutes into the first quarter, Tyrell Sanders gets a 13-yard touchdown pass from Braxton Plunk to make it 7-0, Mount Union leading. About 3 minutes later, though, something happens here as Jazir Francois gets a 20-yard touchdown pass from Justin Horvath for Alfred State. And that would tie things up. Nice catch there, a nice pass. 7-7 is the score at that point. Now, Mount Union would eventually get out of the first quarter up 28-7, but we're going to go to the second quarter here. About 2.5 minutes into the second quarter, Justin Horvath again showing his arm as Ben Ba gets a 15-yard touchdown pass from him to make it 28-14. That's how we'd go to halftime. 28-14 would be the score at that point at halftime. And really, it took a full quarter before Mount Union got back on the scoreboard. DeAndre Parker here, a 7-yard touchdown run, third quarter, 11:23 left, made it 35-14. And then a familiar face will come into your picture about 7 minutes later in this game. As Parker celebrating his touchdown run there, you're going to see a celebration from Wayne Ruby Jr., a 61-yard touchdown pass from Braxton Plunk. And that made the score 42-14. Final score, a little deceiving in this game, 56-14, Mount Union wins. Justin Horvath, 117 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns. DeAndre Parker, 20 rushes, 131 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Next up, it's DePaul at Alma. First quarter, 9 seconds into it, Jerome Roberson gets a 21-yard scoop and score for Alma to start things off. They eventually would go up here 8-0, not 7-0, as Gage Kruger would end up getting the rush into the end zone to get the conversion. So again, 8-0, Alma leading. But first quarter, 3:12 left, Robbie Ballantyne gets a 2-yard touchdown pass from Nathan McCahill. Makes it an 8-7 Alma lead at that point. Alma, though, resilient in this game. 2 minutes later, you're going to see a run coming up here by Jordan Williams, a 13-yard run, in fact, to make it a 15-7 lead for Alma. And the Scots were feeling it here as they exited the first quarter up that 15-7 score, and they would be heard from again in the second quarter. 9:43 left. Carter St. John, a 7-yard touchdown run. That caps an 11-play, 90-yard drive to make it 22-7. Alma leading. They led 25-14 at halftime. We'll go to the third quarter. Joseph Sullivan, 8:33 left, gets a 22-yard field goal for DePaul to make it a one-possession game, 25-17. So getting closer, but Alma's Devin Frenchko gets a 66-yard touchdown pass from Carter St. John to take a 32-17 lead, and that would end up being your final score in this game, as the last quarter and a half essentially was scoreless. 32-17 Alma. Nathan McCahill from DePaul, 32 for 55, 280 yards, 1 passing touchdown and interception. Devin Frenchko, 3 catches, 96 yards, 1 receiving touchdown for Alma. And they will advance to Mount Union. Cortland at Endicott. Great game here. 3:51 left, second quarter. Jaden Alfano St. John gets a 6-yard touchdown run to make it 17-7 in favor of the Red Dragons. The teams would trade field goals in the second or third quarter, so eventually 20-10 Cortland late in the third quarter. And then Endicott has a pair we've heard a lot from this season, Clayton Merengue to Shane Alward. 69-yard touchdown pass here coming up, and just slips through and speed there at that point. That made it 20-17. Cortland still leading the game. After a field goal, though, eventually 23-17. Cortland leading late in the fourth. Then we'll see here as they try to come back. Endicott fumbles the ball as Javier Cosme Diaz fumbles to, it looks like Caleb Paul for Cortland getting on top of the ball. And that would be Cortland's possession. But watch what happens on the other side of the ball as Cortland trying to put the game away, 4th and 2. Zac Boyes fumbles the ball, and ultimately it's going to be Endicott getting the ball back because they couldn't get the 2 yards on that. Eventually 4 seconds left. Clayton Merengue, last chance here. Misses everybody. Incomplete. Cortland wins the game. and advances 23-17. Shane Aylward, 5 catches, 119 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Zac Boyes, 229 total yards, 1 rushing touchdown in the game. Coming up next here, we only got a few clips from this game, but we're going to show them to you what we got here. First off, we're going to show you in this Grove City Susquehanna game the blocked field goal at the end of the first half. It was 7-7 at this point, and Grove City was blocked. Keith Green III, a 72-yard return for the touchdown, made it 14-7. Susquehanna had that lead at halftime. Eventually, though, here's the prayer at the end of the game. 4th down, touchdown, Grove City. Ryan Leonard from Logan Pfeiffer. And we're going to show you also that the extra point, this was 20-20 at this point. The extra point comes in as good. 21-20. It was the first time that Grove City led all game long. And then the ensuing attempt here by Susquehanna with 7 seconds left, and you're going to see them pitch the ball around to no avail, as it was Grove City winning this game 21-20. Keith Green III with that block return for a touchdown. Clayton Parrish, 21 rushes, 122 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns for Grove City. They will advance to travel to Cortland on Saturday after that big win. Lower right bracket time as WestConn visited Johns Hopkins. Western Connecticut was game in this game. 1:56 left first quarter. Deshaun Allen, a 73-yard touchdown pass from Keon Jones, made it 14-13. Hopkins leading, but still, a close game at the end of the first quarter. So we'll advance to the second quarter in this game as Jess Schrader gets a 26-yard touchdown run for Hopkins to make it 21-13 in favor of Johns Hopkins. And we'll continue here. 6:15 left, second quarter. It's Andrew Rich getting a 4-yard touchdown run for Hopkins, making it 28-13. But WestConn not done, as that pair we just talked about a little bit ago in the second quarter, 4:47 left. Deshaun Allen receiving a 74-yard touchdown pass from Keon Jones. On the money there and on the run was Deshaun Allen. 28-20, they trailed Johns Hopkins. But Hopkins, with a 1:03 left in the second quarter, Andrew Rich gets another touchdown run. Oh, and unfortunately, our crunch time just decided to stop working there, so we'll get that fixed up in a moment for you. And still not seeing JB with us here, so we'll get that hopefully resolved as well for you folks, as I know you missed JB, but we're going to go at this time back to, give me one moment, our intro screen, and we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back here. JB's still struggling to get on here with us, but we will keep working with him, try to get him back on the show again. We are live here, and we're just getting our crunch time fixed up to get you the very end of what happened in our Week 12 action. That'll take a minute or two. Again, coming up later in the show, Luke Lehnen, junior quarterback from North Central, will be joining us, as well as Zac Boyes, junior quarterback from Cortland. Both of them found out that they were or are Ghilardi Trophy semifinalists, and we'll see their reactions to that as well. We're going to make sure throughout the show we try to give you that list of Ghilardi finalists or semifinalists. The finalists will be selected on December 7th on a show that Pat Coleman and I will co-host through D3Football.com. And we will name the finalists at that point in time, so you'll want to join us for that for sure. For those that don't know, coverage-wise this weekend, I will be at North Central as Trinity North Central, a big game coming up for this week. In fact, on my ballot, Trinity number 3, North Central number 1. Probably matchups that shouldn't occur in the first, or second round, excuse me, of the playoffs, but it is what it is. And then we also have, I think, Pat Coleman heading out. I can't remember which game he said he was going to. It might be the Whitewater game versus Wheaton, if I had to guess on that one. So you'll see coverage. And also Keith McMillan, I believe, is going to be attending the Ithaca-Randolph-Macon game this weekend. So D3Football.com and in the Huddle will have coverage from a few of the games in this playoff bracket. I'll be on Twitter. Pat usually tweets as well. And I'm sure Keith will be tweeting from the sidelines at Randolph-Macon. So stay tuned for all that. Just about ready to get our crunch time finished up here. Basically what happened, it encoded not the entire file, so we're just finishing that up here, and that should take one more minute. One thing as we do this, though, I will get our scoreboard up here and read a couple notes here that JB would be reading with me. All 4 higher seeds, home teams, win in advance in the lacrosse bracket, which kind of an expected thing with a chalk season that we had here. Round 2 will be a clash of the D3FB Titans, and the games that'll be coming up this weekend: Aurora versus Whitewater Lacrosse and Trinity versus North Central. So big games coming up, obviously, this weekend in that bracket, especially that Trinity North Central game, but don't overlook Aurora Lacrosse, as that should be a splendid game as well. I'm curious to see if Aurora can put up points against Lacrosse's defense. That's going to be kind of the story, as Aurora has struggled at times toward the end of the season with injuries to get the normal amount of points that they're used to scoring in their games. And also from the lower left, and here we go with another sweep by the home teams and higher seeds in the lower left. Illinois College's wide receiver Colin Brunstein ends the 2023 season second all-time with 2,151 receiving yards and 30 receiving touchdowns in a Division III season. Wow, that's incredible. Also, Wheaton's Ben Thorson, what kind of season has he had? He's only thrown 1 interception this season. It was versus Mount St. Joseph earlier this season. That's incredible, to say the least. Okay, I believe we are going to have, if you give me a moment here, the rest of crunch time. I think, he said. Well, maybe not. It really doesn't want to open for us today. So, what I will tell you is, with the remainder of the games, you're going to watch Frank Vamp here for a second or two. There we go. Now we've got it. We're going to take it to the top of the Johns Hopkins game one more time, and here we go. And again, to catch you up here, Deshaun Allen, a 73-yard touchdown pass from Keon Jones, 1:56 left in the first quarter. This is where it was 14-13 in favor of Johns Hopkins. Again, though, full credit to WestCon for what they were trying to pull off in this game and the way they were doing it. Johns Hopkins, Jeff Schrader, the 26-yard touchdown run with 13:20 left in the second quarter, made it 21-13 in favor of Hopkins. Hopkins would add a touchdown, 6:15 left second quarter by Andrew Rich, a 4-yard touchdown run, made it 28-13 in favor of Hopkins, but Western Connecticut would come back one more time. Second quarter, 4:47 left in that second quarter. Deshaun Allen, a 74-yard touchdown pass from Keon Jones, made it 28-20. So closing it in here was WestCon, but we're going to show you an offensive and a defensive play by Johns Hopkins that established the rest of the game. Second quarter, 1:03 left. Andrew Rich with his second touchdown. 35-20 was the lead by Hopkins. And then second quarter, later on in that second quarter, you're going to see Keon Jones in the attempt here down 35-20, intercepted by Zach Aligood. and that would pretty much do it. The rest of the game would go all Hopkins, 62-20. Keon Jones, almost 400 total yards, 2 passing touchdowns, interception. Bay Harvey, 316 total yards, 3 passing, 2 rushing touchdowns in the game. Then Union visited Del Val in a big game in the lower right-hand bracket. And we're going to start things up 3 minutes, 50 seconds into the game as Michael Fiore, who was eventually injured in this game, gets a 5-yard touchdown run, make it 7-0 in favor of Union. We'll see if he's able to go this weekend. As you know, kind of the results coming up here as second quarter, 7:59 left. Del Val answers as Louis Barrios gets a 3-yard touchdown run. They would miss the extra point though, so Union still led in this game, 7-6. Kicking woes continuing for Del Val this season. Then at the end of the first half, Del Val gets aggressive, but Louis Barrios is intercepted by James Gillespie, and he will run it back from 50 yards out. 5 seconds left in the first half. That's 17-6 Union. What a game changer this was right here by Gillespie. We will fast forward in this game. Fourth quarter, 5:58 left. Donovan Piccatti finds Landers Green as he shakes his man and scores easily. 24-9 Union leads. We're going to go very late into this game though. 26 seconds left, and a fumble is recovered by Micah Bootman. And watch him rumble 90 yards. So this makes it a game, 24-16, Union leading, but a chance here with an onside kick for Del Val, and you're going to see Nathan Sullivan fall on it and end this game for Union essentially. 24-16, Union advances. Louis Barrios, 175 total yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 2 interceptions. So James Gillespie, you saw the pick 6 with 5 seconds left in that first half. That was a huge play, one of the biggest of the weekend. Ithaca at Springfield. We're going to start here already up 7-0. Jalen Hines finds the end zone from 7 yards out to make it 14-0. Ithaca leading. Then for his second touchdown of the day coming up, it'll be Jalen Leonard Osborne. Third quarter, 12:34 left with an 11-yard touchdown run, a 21-0 lead. Fourth quarter coming up here, 12:52 left in that fourth quarter, and Blaine Hart from Springfield will attempt to get his team to come back into this game, and you'll see here the 3-yard touchdown run by Hart made it 21-7, and Springfield would have opportunities in the fourth quarter. As I can't remember, a little excited there it looked like, but Springfield would have opportunities. We'll show you the last chance late in the game, still down 14. Dante Vasquez loses a yard and fumbles the ball. Derek Slika with that fumble, forced fumble, and Dante's fumble was recovered by Danny Portis to end the game 21-7. Ithaca winning. Blaine Hart, 52 total yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Jalen Leonard Osborne, 191 total yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Last but not least, it's Christopher Newport at Randolph-Macon. Carnegie Mellon did not make this field, but they did play a great bowl game. Halftime, 7-3, Randolph-Macon led, so third quarter, 12:11 left. Matt Dezerski with a 1-yard touchdown run made it 10-7. Christopher Newport. 6 minutes later, Cameron Chapman makes it a 14-10 Randolph-Macon lead with a 4-yard touchdown run. And so Macon looking to add on here. Nick Hale with 2:17 left third quarter gets a 3-yard touchdown run to make it 21-10 in favor of Randolph-Macon. 9:09 left fourth quarter. David Wallace, a 27-yard touchdown pass from Drew Campanelli, made it 28-10 in favor of Randolph-Macon. After trimming the lead to 28-17, CNU tried to make it a one-possession game late, as you see a field goal attempt blocked by them. They get the ball past midfield. Eventually, they would get the opportunity for their own field goal from 45 yards out, and it is good. And that made it a one-possession game, 28-20. But eventually, Drew Campanelli and his team are able to convert this big 3rd and 4 play, and that would essentially end the game as they could run out the clock. 28-20, Randolph-Macon wins. Matt Dezerski, 189 total yards, 1 passing, 1 rushing touchdown. Nick Hale, 20 rushes, 68 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. And that is the end of part 2 of Crunch Time, as that's Crunch Time for week number 12, the first round of the playoffs of the 2023 Division III college football season. I feel lonely when JB's not next to me over here, and it's kind of sad. I don't know how we're going to get him onto the show. I see Call JB, but I just don't see his glowing face on my screen yet. So here's what we're going to do. In hopes that we find him at some point here, we're going to put up our 3-box for our next guest, who's coming up here in just a moment. So we'll hope for the best. We'll hope that we get a little JB action here, but we'll see what we're able to pull off on this show today. And I don't know. He says he's on. We'll see in a minute here as we get the right slate on for Luke Lehnen joining me now. And Luke, you're saving my life here. You save your offense's life all the time, but you're saving me here as we had technical difficulties out the wazoo so far today. Great to see you, and I will be seeing you actually come just about 27 hours from now, 28 hours from now. On the sideline, I'll be at the North Central Trinity game. How you doing, and how you feeling about this opportunity to get back into these playoffs, hopefully for you, deeper into the playoffs?
I'm feeling good. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm just really excited to continue this postseason run. Obviously, we got to take it week by week. Trinity's a really good opponent. We're excited to play a good game. I feel like most of our season we don't get to play 4 quarters or 3 quarters even, so playing Trinity, a good team, is really exciting for me and the rest of my teammates.
Yeah, let's talk about some things, though. I mean, heading into your last game of the season, I think it was Augustana, there was question as to whether you'd even start. You kind of got your bell rung a little bit the week earlier. A lot of fans took umbrage at the hit that occurred that made that happen. Kind of just walk us through what that was like for you and how you ultimately did play in that game versus Augustana to end the season. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. I felt pretty back to normal like a couple days after the big hit. I just had to enter return to play protocol, and I passed all the tests that they had me doing, like the physical tests and cognitive tests as well. So once I passed those, I was able to practice. I'm non-contact in practice anyway, so it was relatively easy for me to practice without risking getting hit again. So I just passed the test and then was able to play that following week.
Well, it wouldn't be playoffs not having you play, so we're glad to have you back here. But I kind of want to talk about playoff success. I mean, you've seen both sides of it. You went to the Stag Bowl and didn't win versus Mary Hardin Baylor. You went to the Stag Bowl and did win against Mount Union, looking to get to your 3rd Stag Bowl. But what have you learned in this whole process with respect to essentially, how to meander through these playoffs from these last 2 years that's become valuable lessons for you and that you can instill on your teammates that maybe haven't been here yet to this point? Because as many people know, North Central has some guys transfer in, a lot of youth that are special players that are able to get out there early on in their careers, but they haven't been at this apex yet. What have you learned over this time that is most valuable in this whole process for you?
I think I've learned that going to the playoffs is a grind, just because it's a long season. Making it to the Stag Bowl, that's 15 weeks of football, 18 if you count preseason, fall camp, stuff like that. And for our young guys, they're used to playing 10, maybe 11 games in high school, and then they come here and we're expecting to get to the national championship, where we're adding 5-6 more weeks onto their typical season. So I think it's just really a grind going through the playoffs. You have to learn how to manage your body, and just because in high school I feel like that wasn't a big thing. So now managing your body, going to see the athletic trainers, and making sure you're prepared and ready to play the next Saturday is really important.
Let's talk X's and O's here a little bit with this Trinity game coming up. To me, it seems almost unfair. 2 top-level teams meeting in the second round like this. You guys end up, and I'll ask you about this part in a second, you end up in basically what would be the 2 line on the upper left-hand bracket, which, again, in terms of fans taking umbrage at North Central, there was a lot of that stuff going on, but Trinity brings in a very, very good defense. You've heard the name Caleb Parmel, but he's only one of many on that defense that you'll be facing on Saturday. You kind of saw what happened in that St. John's game probably earlier in the season, their week 1 basically. I mean, tell me what you see with respect to this defense of Trinity that you think makes them special, and how do you beat that defense essentially?
I think they're really good up front. Their front seven is phenomenal, really solid guys, especially at linebacker and D-line. They are really good. They're physical, but I think the way that we're going to be able to win is beat them with speed and also just be more physical than them. They might be physical, but our O-line and our running backs are just as physical and even more physical than them, I believe. So,
yeah, I can attest to that. I've seen that. So let's talk about some of the reactions from fans throughout this season. I saw you at the Wheaton game, and we all know about the battle-tested debacle that I went through, and they haven't let me forget about it. But, look, I want you to attest to something for me. I did pick you guys in the national championship last year, did I not? I mean, everybody says I hate North Central, never pick them and everything else. I did pick you guys at least once in my history here. Is that not wrong? Right?
no, that's right. That's right.
Okay. Yeah. So, folks, I do pick North Central on occasion. We'll see what happens later on when predictions occur. We'll get predictions from JB in one way or another today on this show. I already know what our backup plan is going to be on this. But, okay, what I don't control and what we called out quite often was you guys not getting essentially the 1 line in your quadrant of the brackets, and you were number 2 in your region. So we kind of saw this maybe coming along the way. I mean, is there a disrespect issue, I think, playing out here a little bit for North Central? How do you see this thing? I mean, were you surprised to see you guys not on the 1 line essentially in Region 5 and then basically the 1 line that we would assume would exist on the bracket? How did you react to all this?
It could be a little bit of disrespect. I don't really. I feel like disrespect's kind of a strong word, but I was a little surprised during the playoff, like the seeding show. I remember seeing that bracket being formed in the top left, and I just after they named like the cross the top one, I kind of just remembered like watching it, like just to see who all they would play, not really expecting to be in there. And then when we saw our name, we were definitely a little surprised at first to be in the upper left quadrant and not at the top of the bracket, but in the end, like it doesn't really matter what seed we have or where we're playing or who we're playing. We're just going to show up and play football. Yeah, it would be nice to have the 1 seed to be able to host throughout the playoffs, but in reality, it doesn't really matter. Well, Coach Spencer likes to say, like sometimes we'll play you in the parking lot. We don't really care where it is, so we're just ready to show up and play football.
So, on a personal note, I remember you during the post-game interviews, and I didn't really get to press you much on it because it was a hot day. We're all kind of ready to be done with that day, which will be the complete opposite tomorrow. I think in the 30s, if I'm lucky, tomorrow when I'm out there, I'm going to have more hot packs on me than Walmart carries on an average day, I think. But you brought up, I think, a shout-out to your fiancée. Am I not remember that correctly? And so, okay, young guy, looking at what the next steps in his athletic career probably are, ultimately, more on that in a sec. I mean, and engaged to be married? What happened here, Luke? I mean, when did this all happen and all this stuff? Help me out here.
So I've been dating Jillian since our junior year of high school. And then over the summer we got engaged, and then our wedding is coming up in June this year, or next year, I guess you would call it. So June 24. Yeah, we just felt like it was right. It fit with our timeline with school and everything. She does nursing. She graduates in the spring. So getting married that summer felt like the right time to do it for us. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
a lucky lady for sure. You're a true gentleman in every sense. I'm sure you're going to say the reverse, that you're the lucky guy on this whole thing. But what about next steps for you? I've talked to folks, Coach Spencer, etc., and I know that people are out there looking at you. You're a great baseball player and a great football player. Needless to say, for those that watch the show, they know this. What is happening next for you? Are you going to complete your career at North Central? Are you looking at other options out there? This is rare air where we talk about a quarterback that might have the opportunity to get to a third straight Stag Bowl and still have a year left to play. What are you looking at for yourself here? Because I think all of D3 are rooting for you in this whole situation down the line.
So I graduate after this semester, like in the winter in December. So then I'm going to plan on taking grad school so that I can finish out baseball and football here at North Central. I still have 2 years of baseball. I was given a COVID year my first year here, even though we had a whole season. So my plan is to finish out my career and finish out my eligibility here. And then after that, I've had a couple looks from MLB teams. It was just like it only happened one time. Like I went and did like a little workout for the Rangers. But so we'll see what happens with that. But right now, I'm just focused on planning or finishing my career here for baseball and football.
You're speaking of focus. Look what happened while you're focusing here. JB has shown himself. Hold on, JB. I gotta get the right microphone out for you at this point. I don't even know where you are. There you are. JB is hidden in some hotel room in Connecticut, I believe, and he's been trying mightily to get on. He wanted to say hi to you, Luke, among other things here.
Hey, Luke. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Happy Thanksgiving. Doing all right. Just a little technical difficulties. Maybe it serves us right for not doing a test run before we tried to hook up this morning. But the holidays, all that kind of stuff. What are you going to do?
JB, listen, at the end of the day, when I'm out there tomorrow at North Central, my hands will cease to function probably in the third quarter. Mm-hmm. So you want to talk about technical difficulties. I'm going to be taking all this video. I'm not going to be able to tweet. I'm just going to put touchdown scored and just put the video out there as Luke and his team kind of are used to this, going this deep into the playoffs with this kind of weather. I mean, Luke, you're a cold weather guy originally, right? So this is nothing to you, right?
Yeah, this isn't really that cold for me. Practice this week has been really nice. So it'll be slight change on Saturday. Like it was like 50 degrees the past couple of days at practice. So Saturday will be a little bit different, but I'm not used to.
Well, it's going to be, I think, a really good game. Okay, I'm not going to go into the specifics here. I'm not going to say you guys are going to lose this game or anything like that out here and get myself basically lambasted just walking in the joint tomorrow. Benedetti Worley Stadium, it's a great place to be, but if you pick against the North Central Cardinals, it ain't so great for the guy on the sideline. But and I'm still invited apparently to the tailgate. I may need a taste tester to make sure I'm not being poisoned in the process tomorrow. But I will definitely enjoy something. But Luke, I wanted to thank you for joining us despite the technical difficulties. Always a pleasure, my friend. And we'll see where this goes. Might be seeing you in Salem for Stag Bowl 50, but you still got some big games in front of you here to get there in the first place. Let me let you give any shout-outs to family, friends, fiancés, teammates, etc. that might be out there. Luke Lehnen, the floor is yours.
Okay.
I'll shout out my family. They just came up for Thanksgiving, so it was good to see them yesterday. Shout out my fiancée and her family. Shout out my teammates, my coaches at North Central. Shout out the O-line. That's what I got.
That's great, and like I said, I will see you tomorrow. As long as my flight goes better than this show's gone so far, we'll be all good tomorrow morning, and we'll see where this goes. Again, on my ballot, number 3 versus number 1 in the second round of the playoffs. It's an incredible matchup. Luke, best of luck to you and your team and everybody out there tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Luke Lehnen joining us here on In the Huddle. Oh, so how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I guess maybe that old code that we used for the last 6 seasons just got killed or something. I tried the software, I tried the phone with Wi-Fi, without Wi-Fi. I did everything under my power to try to log on, and then all of a sudden, I came into my room here. I'm telling Jen, I don't know, I have to give up. And then this other code comes in, and of course pops on right up, no problem. So who knows what's going on? Just one of those days. And I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving up there in Ballston Spa. We had a nice quiet night here in Connecticut, so we've been enjoying our time. But we're hoping our flight back today doesn't get delayed 3.5 hours like our flight here did.
Yeah, I wish you the best on that. I wish the same for me tomorrow. I can only imagine how this is going to go after watching what happened with the Buffalo situation and everything else. Speaking of Buffalo, Zac Boyes coming up in a little bit. He's in our queue, so ready to go.
Right.
But a couple things I want to look at here with you. We'll go lower right bracket first because I cover the left side so far. But the lower right, Johns Hopkins bracket, Union defeating number 24 Del Val could be considered an upset by some, but Union was a heavy favorite based on D3 football in our picks. And Ithaca was also a strong favorite to win despite being on the road. Your games coming up will be Union at Johns Hopkins and Ithaca at Randolph-Macon. I mean, and I agree with you. I think Union Del Val, I said it to Coach Poppy, I'll say it now. I said, you can win this game when I was talking with him after the Sunday selection show. And, it just came down to Del Val was the most beatable we've seen them, though they didn't lose except to Cortland this season. They still had their streak in the MAC alive and everything else, but it seemed like a different season for Del Val. Union, opportunistic, that big INT return, the pick six there. Yeah. That was a game changer. Just general thoughts on that side of the bracket.
Well, as much as there's certain fans in D3 that sort of want to disparage the right side as being, the weaker or the lesser of. I mean, you got to look at the games themselves, and they're competitive. They're evenly matched. They're actually, in many cases, better than what we saw in the first round. So there has to be something for that. At the end of the day, the NCAA tournament for football is about access. It's about conference champions. I mean, we're not going to be able to change that until maybe with this playoff expansion to 40 teams, we could see some different things shake it up a little bit. But this upcoming Saturday, all the best games, in my opinion, with one exception being sort of the 1A between Trinity and North Central, are on the right side of the bracket. They're going to be the most competitive, the most compelling. The other ones have very clear favorites. Three of the four on the left side have very clear favorites, in my opinion, and could be over at halftime. So I'm for exciting football games, that stuff that's entertaining to watch that we can talk about on this show when I can connect to it. So that's what I'm looking forward to. The right side is going to be the right side for Saturday's viewing.
And we'll talk about upper right portion of it now as Mount Union's Braxton Plunk became the new yardage leader for passing with 14,356 yards. Congratulations to him.
Not done yet either.
The bracket with the one true upset, or we're kind of calling it, which is the Grove City win versus Susquehanna. And JB is frozen up. There we go. We got him back. But it'll be Alma versus Mount Union, Grove City versus Cortland. And let's go to our Cortland.
Cheer. Okay, never mind. I'll shut up. Let's go.
Well, yeah, let's go to our Cortland unit here and talk to Zac Boyes, junior quarterback from Cortland. What's interesting in the connection I was alluding to at the top of the show when I was just vamping for my life, basically, without JB here, was we have two quarterbacks who are high-level quarterbacks in these playoffs that are juniors. Luke Lehnen, who's won the Stag Bowl and appeared twice. Zac Boyes, who would like to appear in his first one this year, and maybe have one more left after that next year. Zac, it's great to have you join us here. And how you feeling after that big win versus Endicott last weekend?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks to you guys for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been long due, but I'm feeling great. It's good to get some wins in November and sneak out some tough wins. So everything's going good.
What did you learn in the Randolph-Macon playoff game last year that was useful in this first game? Because, again, it was a tight game, and it could have gone the wrong way ultimately for you. But in this case, you guys pull it out. What did you learn last year that was useful?
I think just to stick together for 60 minutes. That was the biggest thing. We played a very good first half versus a really good Randolph-Macon team. They fly around, that's for sure. They make a bunch of plays. They make you make plays. They're fast. And I think it was just we kind of got a little satisfied at halftime. We took the foot off the gas as an offense. And, you can't do that against good teams. So I think that was just kind of our main thing is, play together for 60 minutes, have faith in both sides of the ball, and good things will happen.
Well, Zac, I appreciate you joining us old guys. I know you were on D1 Rejects with Kobe earlier in the week, and I imagine it was probably fun to talk to somebody a little closer to your age. But we've had a lot of fun watching your career over the last couple of years, and I think what makes you guys so interesting is the fact that your offense can be so creative, so explosive in different ways. You can throw the ball deep. You've got some great receivers. And you've got some great running backs to hand the ball off to. But tell us a little bit about the guys you don't hear about as much. The offensive line. I imagine they probably ate a lot of turkey yesterday. They're big dudes, right? They gotta pad up for the big game. Tell us about those guys and what they've really done for you so far this season.
Honestly, they've been great, man. We've been moving a lot of guys around. We've had some injuries up there, so we haven't had kind of the all five play like we had last year or the year before. So we've had a bunch of guys that had to come in and step up and play well. And huge shout out to Coach Raj, man. He gets those guys ready each week, and they're all prepared. They all play very, very hard, very aggressive. They're a physical group, and going up against our D line every day, they gotta be. Those guys have battles and practices every day. I'm happy that I got a yellow jersey on, But they've been huge for us all year. It starts up front, and they don't really get all the recognition they deserve. But I couldn't have done it without them. Our offense wouldn't be as good as it is without them. But like I said, huge shout out to Coach Ross for getting those guys right each week.
Zac, it looked like you guys were on a collision course for a rematch of the Susquehanna game. And a funny thing happened with 7 seconds left in Selinsgrove last week, where Grove City pulls one out. The rabbit came out somewhere there, and they end up winning the game 21-20. And you end up hosting as a result of that, because you would not have hosted this game if it was Susquehanna-Cortland matchup, as we have grown to learn on how these brackets work ultimately. People, though, still say this is a great matchup, especially how the defense from Grove City will match up against your offense. What have you seen on film? What's your thoughts in terms of what they do well, and how do you beat them? Same question I asked Luke about Trinity. I'm going to ask you right now about Grove City.
Yeah, I mean, they beat Susquehanna. It says we lost to Susquehanna. It's simple. They're a very good team. They're very physical. They limit the game. They have an awesome running attack. So, we got to value our possessions. We got to match their physicality. That's the first thing. They're going to come in here, try to make physicality a factor in the game. And we got to be able to match that energy. And I'm excited for our guys to do that. We got to be able to win one-on-one matchups like every week. And the main thing is we got to just take what they give us. That's kind of our motto throughout the whole year. And our guys kind of know that going into each week, it might be different than what we prepared, and we just got to be ready for whatever they throw at us and go out there and execute and score as many points as we can as an offense. And keep our defense rested, give them some breaks when they need it, and just go play Cortland football.
Was the fact that the game was going to be home this weekend sort of an added bonus, though? I mean, there was a lot of consternation initially that, why are you guys going on the road? And, I think there was some fair, criticisms of that, pairing kind of for round one. But here you are, you got a chance to have a team Thanksgiving at home yesterday. You guys are going to be at home probably. If assuming you can advance, this might be the last home game. What does that mean, especially for your team, for your seniors, the fifth years, and so on?
Absolutely. So, it's the best playing at home. You get to sleep in your own bed. You get your family to come up. You can enjoy it a little bit more after. that bus ride home last week was not ideal. The bus ride there. But the thing about we play in Central New York, right? We play a bunch of teams from New York, and we only had one overnight this year. So it's kind of cool to go in an overnight last week, to a point, because it's just us, we don't get that often. So it was cool to kind of be with the guys. We've been around each other a lot. We all had Thanksgiving together yesterday, and we're a really tight-knit group. So I think the more we're around each other, the more confidence we have in each other. So it was like kind of Luke said, we don't care where we play. We're just gonna play. Put the ball down wherever you want to and get it done. We don't decide that, right? Wherever you want us to play, we're just gonna go down and play. But like I said, it was a cool experience going down to Endicott. It's a really cool place to play. But we're definitely happy to be home for Thanksgiving and be able to be with our families this weekend is huge.
Yeah.
So there's a guy in your offense that you've really clicked with. I mean, we all know about Jaden Alfano St. John. I just love saying the name. That we can prove we can actually say the name in one piece. And JJ Lapp, obviously. But Cole Burgess, obviously, has had some highs and lows in his football career. And you two seem to have hit a certain level of rhythm this season and friendship, I want to say, as well, watching you guys out there, that definitely exceeds last year. Tell me about that relationship.
That's my guy, man. Cole's a stud. He's a really good person above everything else. He's a funny kid. He's awesome to be around. And I think that's just the main thing is, last year was like our first time kind of meeting each other, right? We didn't get to come in and we weren't in like the same class or anything. So it was cool getting to know him and just kind of being around him all spring. Like we just kind of talked about what we really want to be, hanging out with him and stuff like that. But the main thing about Cole is he always wants to learn. He always kind of wants to know what I'm thinking. And he always lets me know that he's open. In a good way, you know what I mean? He's not coming up to me and screaming at me to give him the ball, but he's always open. So it's good. I have a ton of confidence in him that he's gonna do his job and be where I want him to be. And like I said, it's easy playing with some of your best friends, right? You're playing with guys you care about. You're playing with guys that care about you. It's an easy connection to have, and I got that with all the receivers on our team. Like I said, we're a really tight knit group, man. We all love each other, and I think that's a big difference from this year to last year. Is we're just a little bit older. We kind of grew with each other, right? So just being around all the guys, it's awesome, and especially Cole. Like I said, he's a great dude, and an even better football player. So he makes me look good on Saturdays, even when I throw a ball where I shouldn't.
JB, I'm going to jump for one more for a second here.
Yeah.
Those who don't know, this guy, Zac Boyes, last name is familiar, former Buffalo State head coach Jerry Boyes, father, son. And, Zac, I always ask you how dad's affected your life along the way. I mean, tell me about your relationship with him, which probably is even more profound than your relationship with Cole Burgess.
Yeah. My dad's my rock, man. I talk to him all the time. I've always wanted to be like him growing up. That was kind of my daycare, was going in with him and, watching football practice and snapping the balls with the guys. But he's everything to me, man. I really try to be like him. Like I tell everybody, my dad's he's always the same person. No matter where he is, he's going to be the same person that he always has. So I model my life around him. He's been to 2 Stag Bowls, so he's got that holding over my head. So he doesn't have 2 victories though. So I got to try to beat him in that category. So I'm always kind of competing with him. You could say we always golf together and we're always talking trash and trying to beat each other. But honestly, he's a huge part of my life. I talk to him twice a week. He always wants to know the game plan. He always wants to know a bunch of stuff. So he's still very much engaged in my development as a player. But I couldn't. There's nobody else I'd rather have in my corner.
Yeah, and I don't know if most D3 fans realize this, but about 13 years ago, your dad pulled off one of the biggest upsets in history, and I imagine that knowing that you've got that part of the lineage, it doesn't matter who we playing, you can always, all you need to do is score one more point than the opposition. 7-6 will still get you a win, whether it's over a Whitewater or whatever. Yeah, exactly. So we wish you, the best of luck this weekend. We've gotten to know the Grove City guys over the last 5 or 6 years pretty well. Great people. Really couldn't be better people, but they will play their what's off and really bring it. I imagine you guys will be ready for that. So it should be a really great game between two very classy programs, and we can't wait to see how it goes down. So, Zach, thanks for joining us. Want to give you a chance to give any shout-outs to any friends, family. Looks like you already got your dad checked off there, but if there are any teammates or anything else you want to give a shout-out to this Thanksgiving weekend, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to my mom. I have to give my dad that big shout out. I love you, Mom. Thanks for everything. But shout out my rest of my family, my aunt, my uncle, my grandparents. I go there Friday nights. They feed me for my pregame meal, so I appreciate that. My sister and my brother have been very supportive. They're the best. And shout out to my guys on 18 or on Reynolds Avenue. We got like 20, 25 guys all live on the same block. So it's pretty cool kind of being all with each other and having a good Thanksgiving with each other. So shout out my guys and shout out my own line.
Right. So I got to say one thing before I let you go. I wish we could mic you up during a football game, Zach, because having been close enough to you on sideline, I mean, let's put it aside the touchdown versus Brockport, where you said essentially that you thought they thought they were going to hold us to nothing or something like that, and then the stuff you say in the sideline, Zach, you have, let's say, the mouth game going on the sideline for sure.
Fire of a dragon. Yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
does.
Man.
For junior,
I want to win as much as anybody else. So
I wish we could mic you up. We'd have to probably edit some stuff out for Coach Fitzpatrick's edification. But you are something else out there, and I actually enjoy immensely going to a Cortland game just for that fact of hearing you out there. You got Coach Fitz, who's kind of the reserve guy, but will get angry as hell if you do something wrong. And then you got Zach, who's kind of the class clown of sorts, but also the fire, as you said, of the dragon on the sideline as he's blown out there. So Zach, it's been a pleasure so far. I'm excited by the fact that we have one more year with you next year. Yeah. But first things first, let's see what happens in this playoff run for Cortland. Best of luck.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Zac
Boyes from Cortland, junior quarterback. How you feeling over there, buddy?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. Less than 48 hours. I mean, the flight got getting in late. We barely got much sleep on Thursday night. Or Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Just busy visiting family all day yesterday. We're flying out this afternoon. It's just kind of bam, bam, bam. Got more family to visit, that are back home in Florida. So no rest for the weary. But it's been a nice visit here.
Now we got 0 on the clock. We can't do this in 0. But actually, you know what?
Yeah, it's only 8 games. We should be able to cruise through this.
Well, that's. I'm taking the clock off. You may want to lower your camera or your head on the camera a little bit there because you're going to cut yourself off. There you go. Other way.
Other way? This
way?
You go.
Yep, you can see it, I think. There you go. But we're not even going to play the music at this point. We're just going to go with this and talk about the 8 games and a little bit more depth than we normally would. And let's see where we land. You lead by 1. I went 16-0. You went 15-1 last week. So that's a rarity in and of itself.
Grove City, man. But that was it.
Yeah, that was the key. Okay, let's go here. And I will start here. Aurora at La Crosse. Actually, I should drag my scores from Quick Hits over to here. So, yeah, if you give me a moment, I will grab those. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be La Crosse in this game, I think. I talked about it earlier in the show. Aurora having some issues, I think, with injuries. And so that's going to pose a little bit of a problem trying to move that ball offensively for them. So I'm going to say that Aurora is going to struggle a little bit against a top-notch team like La Crosse 31-20, Lacrosse wins the game. I have.
Yeah, it's hard to put the pressure of a second round playoff game against the number 2, 3, 4, wherever they're ranked, team in the country. WIAC champs. They should win pretty comfortably. I'd say 35-20.
Then, as I said, number 3 versus number 1 on my ballot, and not very far off on many people's ballots in that respect.
Yeah.
Trinity at North Central. Take it away.
Well, it's funny. A friend said, "Don't be afraid to pick the Tigers and prove everybody wrong." There is a lot of confidence coming from San Antonio, and I don't see why not. I mean, they are a very senior laden team. There's a lot of speed. There's a lot of talent there. I just when I think about the Barry game that I saw in person, and how the Vikings receivers did get behind that secondary every once in a while. I know everyone thinks of Luke Lehnen as as good. He can run the ball. They've got this power eye rushing attack with that big offensive line. Hardy could have a big game here potentially, and so I could see this as a shootout. But I do feel like in the long run, the Cardinals are just. I mean, they're the defending champions for a reason. They're almost like not really a D3 team in many respects when you look at the size and speed that they have, and they're at home. It's we can't really pick against the champs, so I'll say that it'll be a close one, but the Cardinals will pull away late, maybe tack on some insurance scores in the fourth quarter. Luke will probably have to play the whole game in this one based on the Trinity defense, but I think ultimately it's going to be like a 41-28 type of game.
Yeah, I have it a little bit tighter. I think the Trinity defense is the X factor here. Trying to break down this offense and the size of the offense will be unique for them, okay? This is not your average game. Mary Hardin Baylor and St. John's may have prepped them a little bit for this, but they're not North Central's lines. I just think it will play out interestingly. I don't see a runaway here. I don't. And I
hope not.
Will say North Central wins 27-21. I just think that here's the key to me to win this game for Trinity. Time of possession, prolonged drives, short passing game fortified by the run game. Shrink the game, okay? You are the underdog here. No matter how you want to view yourself, you are the underdog for a reason. This team has been to 2 straight Stag Bowls. Make it 3, isn't it? Going back to pre-COVID?
Yeah. Yep.
So this is not an accident, folks, okay? And they are very battle-tested, North Central. Just trust me on that. They're battle-tested, okay, folks? So Trinity needs to basically try to shorten this game. But again, North Central wins this game 27-21 on my card here. Okay, next up. In the Wartburg bracket, Whitworth at Wartburg. A lot of W's through this end of the bracket. In fact, 4 W's in this end of the bracket.
Yeah.
Whitworth at Wartburg. I'm going to stick with Wartburg here. Just think this is a matchup that favors them very well. Their defense is going to step up and really thwart Whitworth at times in this game. I don't see this being close. I think it's 34-10 in favor of Wartburg as a result.
Yeah, I think Ewing and the Pirates will make this a little more interesting than we think. I also feel like Wartburg isn't as strong as they were last year, at least offensively. So I'll still take them to win the game, but it'll be a little bit closer, like a 27-14, 17 type of game.
Interesting. And I don't fault you for that because you just don't know what Wartburg offense is going to show up. I mean, last week was great, but the rest of the season seemed like, maybe that was a good warm-up for them last week. I don't know. Then coming up next, you'll start this one. It's Wheaton at Whitewater.
Yeah, I mean, guys like Thorson and Weeks will give the Thunder a punching chance, but at the Perk in a playoff atmosphere, I think that the Warhawks will do what they always do: pound the rock. They'll take a few shots down the field and let their defense kind of lock in and try to make the Thunder get out of their comfort zone. I think it'll be close early, but Warhawks will kind of extend the game down the road, make a few plays here and there, and win it probably like a 38-28 type of game.
I've got Whitewater winning this one 37-20. I think that it's going to be tough for Wheaton to have the Giovanni Weeks show work against Whitewater right now. I feel like that defense is starting to click, especially watching what they did to Joey Kidder of Bethel last week. I think, obviously, Weeks to me is a better running back, but they bottled up overall and didn't let much damage get done by Kidder in that game. I think they are able to succeed for most of the game versus Weeks, not the entire game. I think he'll still have some yardage and a touchdown or two, but overall, 37-20, I have Whitewater winning. I'll start this one. It's in the Mount Union bracket, Alma at Mount Union. And it's been fun, Alma, but I just don't see where this goes from here. Watching Mount Union finally get it together in the second half last week, because it was a deceiving 56-14 score last week.
Yeah.
It was 28-14 for way too long in that game, and against a team that is inferior to a lot of the OAC competition in my mind and a lot of others.
Yeah.
Yet they couldn't put away this team very easily. And so finally in the second half, they woke up and got things rolling. I think they continue to roll here. Alma played good defense for the second half last week, but I just don't think it's the defense level they need to play against the Mount Union. It's going to be 41-17 Alma. 41-17 Mount Union beating Alma.
Yeah, I'd say it's like a 49-21 type of game. The Scots might keep it interesting early on, but too much Braxton Plunk, too much, Ruby Jr. Down the stretch, so Raiders win comfortably.
Before we go to the next game, I should actually back up for a second here and allow you to name your MVPs, because basically we have one player that we'll be maybe talking about in our next prediction. So go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, the Susquehanna defense hadn't really allowed many. I think only one rushing touchdown all season. So the fact that Clayton Parrish ran the ball as often as he did, scored those 2 rushing touchdowns, is a big reason why Grove City was in a position to win that game. On the special teams side, Keith Green with that blocked field goal return. I mean, that was really the biggest play for Susquehanna for most of the first half and kind of late into the game. We just mentioned Alma. If there is a guy who maybe could give Ruby a hard time, it's this Gage Nelson. He had double-digit tackles, a couple of tackles for loss, and a few other big plays in the game for Alma. So keep an eye out for him. He's going to be a big reason on whether or not the Scots hang around with Mount Union. But hey, Parrish has been a bulldozer of a running back for Grove City, and the Dragons better be ready for him on Saturday.
So we bring up the game here, Grove City at Cortland, and I believe that is you starting this one.
Yeah, and this is the one that I've struggled with, because on one hand, Grove City seems like that team of destiny. They have the ability to win those close games. We've seen them with Case. We saw it, with Susquehanna in the playoffs. But I feel like this year's Cortland team, after what happened last season, what happened to them earlier this season with Susquehanna, has kind of learned their lesson. And so they know what they need to do to close games out. Even last week on the road at Endicott, even though it wasn't pretty, they never trailed. They were always kind of in control of that one, even though it was a close call. So I feel like the Dragons will hold court at home, but this is going to be a really tight game, like a 27-24. Could come down to a field goal type of thing. So close one for the Dragons, but I think the home team wins.
Yeah, I have a little more distance here, but I think it's going away. Ultimately, I agree with you that it's an interesting, compelling matchup on how this plays out. And the Clayton Parishes of the world are difference makers for Grove City in this type of game, for sure. I just feel like there's just too many weapons, and we said it before, offensively for Cortland, too many weapons for Grove City to handle. And so the last thing Grove City needs to have happen in this game is a shootout. I don't think they can win a shootout versus Cortland ultimately. I think that they can win a good game in the 20s, the upper teens to 20s, But if this thing goes into the 30s for either team, I think it's over. And I think it's Cortland that will get to 30, namely 31-21. I have them beating Grove City. That's tough to say. It's tough to do because you alluded to our relationship with Grove City over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And this is not indicative of, our feelings for that team, Coach DiDonato, Logan Clayton, and all the guys over there. Our job here is to try to give predictions the best we can. And this is like picking favorite kids right now at this point.
Prove us wrong, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'll celebrate as much as anybody with either team winning that game because we really appreciate both teams and what they've done. Both coaches have been true friends of the show. So never take these predictions personally, folks, please, except North Central fans who will always take these predictions personally. I jumped the game here. Let's get back to Union at Hopkins, and I will start here. I think it's going to be a tight game. I really do. And I've seen Hopkins twice this season in one game that wasn't that tight versus Ithaca and one game that was very tight versus Muhlenberg. Will Leger, remember him? But
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a big play. A few people watched on Twitter. It was amazing. I picked the Ithaca game to compare this to a little bit to say that Union did struggle against Ithaca and is on the road just like Ithaca was earlier in the season against Hopkins. So using the law of syllogism, I'm going to pick Hopkins in this game 27-24. Very close. I wouldn't be shocked to see it go the other way. But I think Hopkins, Bay Harvey's hitting a certain rhythm right now. They learned a little bit after that Muhlenberg game that they kind of woke up with that hangover in the next game and nearly didn't make it through that game with a win. But ever since then, they seem to be rolling pretty well. That said, Western Connecticut gave them a little bit of a scare early on in that game, 14-13, 28-20, but they were able to put them away 62-20 eventually in that game. So I think they learned a lot from that game as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the Hopkins defensive backs coach probably had a field day in the film room with his guys with some of those long touchdown passes, and Landers Green is going to probably have some tighter coverage. There'll be some different roll-ups or safety protection. At the end of the day, I mean, the Union win over Del Val was impressive, but if you don't have that pick six by Gillespie at the end of the first half, that's a totally different box score. And so I feel like Hopkins is just on another level than Del Val at this point. And at home, with the weapons that you mentioned, I do agree with you. It could be a close call, but I'll take the Blue Jays to win sort of like a 31-21 type of game.
You'll start this one. Speaking of Ithaca, if Union and Ithaca get through, there will be a rematch at our disposal after all. But Ithaca, Randolph-Macon is up first here in the South.
Yeah, and I think after last weekend, some people may want to ding Randolph-Macon and the ODAC. I mean, both of their teams lost their bowl games to landmark conference teams that had sub-500 records. That was a little bit of a red flag. We saw Christopher Newport, who had kind of an up-and-down season, hang with the Yellow Jackets for a pretty good time there. But people also forget that that's the same CNU team that only lost to Hopkins by a touchdown. So the Captains were probably a better squad than we give them credit for. And, while Ithaca certainly could win this game, I think with a freshman quarterback and some of the other, things going on there, Campanelli having that experience, that, the comfort of playing at home, that will help the Yellow Jackets in this one. It'll be a close one, but I'll take them to win kind of similar like they did last week, like 28-21.
It's tough to compare these teams because of the lack of common opponent scenario based on distance and everything, but here's what I got for you. I think Cortland is a better team this year than they were last year. I think Ithaca is a little bit down because of, especially A.J. Wingfield going out with the injury and everything else. Cortland beat Ithaca. Randolph-Macon beat last year's Cortland. So with Drew Campanelli still at the helm, and I was thinking that Randolph-Macon may have even improved this year in the regular season compared to last year's version, I'm going to give it to Randolph-Macon here by that kind of law of syllogisms, by 31-20 to score. Randolph-Macon, and that for the first time this season, we have completely matched our picks across the board. So there will be no gaining by me.
I thought for a second there that you might go with your Union Dutchman. I was wondering, especially when I heard that you were going to go first. I was like, oh, this could be where he throws tries to pick the upset. But like we've been saying all year, this has definitely been a kind of a chalk season in many respects. We'll see if that changes. We saw a lot of the home teams or the favorites win last weekend. Other than in the Grove City Susquehanna game. That was kind of a toss-up. That was, in my opinion, that was just a bad pairing by the NCAA. Those teams shouldn't have played in the first round, to be honest. And that was a great game. And I think we're going to have some great games on the right side of the bracket on Saturday. The left side, we'll see. My hopes are up that we could have an all-time classic in Trinity and North Central. It'll just depend on how the Tigers travel and how the defense sort of sets the tone for that one, because the CCIW this season has been okay, but we've seen a little bit of Augustana losing the way they did to Platteville and the Isthmus Bowl kind of was a head scratcher to me on one hand, and with Wheaton kind of struggling to put away Mount St. Joe's last week was a little bit of a head scratcher to me. So I think North Central's benefited from a weaker schedule for a long time. I mean, Trinity, like you said in our prior interview, Frank, the last 5 or 6 weeks has not been a challenge for the Tigers, but their first half of the season was brutal. And so they're going to need to remember that sort of brutal first half of the season and ramp up for this game because you have a very well-rested, playoff-ready North Central team that's going to pull out all the stops and really bring it.
Well, JB, I think it's time for us to go. I noticed you were giving a wink to somebody in the background, probably saying, "What, are we done yet, honey? Are we done yet, honey?" So, listen.
She's good. She's good. She blew a kiss. She says, "Hi, Frank."
Could I say hi to her real quick? I mean,
Let's see. Hey, Jen. Frank wants to say hi.
She's like, no.
She's like, I mean, she looks beautiful, but she's like, I don't want to be on camera. Come on.
Okay. Well, love you too, Jen. Okay, folks. I'm going to be flying tomorrow. You're going to be flying later today, right back home. So airports, be ready. In the Huddle coming at you.
I will put in one quick plug. The guys from My Team Media, which is an upstate New York podcast, they focus on both high school and college football. Since there are 3 upstate New York teams playing tomorrow, I'll join their pregame show to talk a little bit about Ithaca, Cortland, and Union. So if you want to tune into that, it's on YouTube. I'll post it about here. We'll sort of chat with them a little bit about kind of what we see in those games, and then they'll do a red zone kind of style like we did with the bracket blitz with those 3 games focusing on the upstate New York team. So if you either have a kid on one of those teams or you're a fan of either the Empire 8 or the Liberty League, that might be something to check out. Otherwise, keep an eye on Frank's Twitter feed. We'll be retweeting those and just following the games in general. But like I said, I'm going to be focused more on the right side. Other than that Trinity North Central game, I just feel like that's where the more competitive matchups are going to be. And so we'll see how it goes on Saturday.
JB, thanks for fighting through today. Folks, thanks for having patience with this day. We got it off the ground somehow, some way. It happens every week. Something throws itself into the ring here for us to overcome, and we find a way, by the end of the show at least, to do it. So,
yeah.
Folks, have a great weekend. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving and continue enjoying that Thanksgiving weekend. Bye, folks.